I want you to think back for a moment, to the deepest wound your heart has ever known. Where did it come from? I'm willing to bet, it wasn't from a stranger, not some random face in the crowd. No, the deepest cuts usually come from the people we let closest, the ones we trusted, the ones we loved, the ones we never thought would hurt us. Betrayal doesn't shout when it walks in, it doesn't slam the door, or announce itself. It slips in quietly, wrapped in smiles, familiar laughter, and broken promises you once believed in. It starts small, a lie you chose to overlook, maybe they had their reasons. A promise they broke, maybe they were just overwhelmed. A boundary crossed, and you stayed silent, because you didn't want to seem dramatic. Do you recognize that pattern? We rationalize, we forgive, we give second chances, and thirds, and fourths, until the weight of all those maybes becomes too heavy to carry, and by the time we finally see the full picture, the damage has already been done, the solid ground we stood on, gone, crumbled into confusion, self-doubt, and pain. But this video is not about bitterness. It's not about playing the victim, it's about clarity, it's about strength, it's about learning how to say, "This, I will no longer tolerate," the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And in the face of betrayal, our first, and most vital, reaction must be recognition, because here's a truth we don't hear enough: forgiveness without wisdom isn't noble, it's dangerous. When you forgive someone who has no intention of changing, you're not offering mercy, you're giving them a free pass to hurt you again. Not all betrayals are mistakes, some are choices, and choices reflect character. So today, I want to walk with you through 9 forms of betrayal. You must learn to never excuse, not because you're cold, not because you're unforgiving, but because you are finally strong enough to stop accepting less than you deserve. We're not here to vent, we're here to grow, and growth begins with truth. So if you've ever been lied to, abandoned, manipulated, if you've ever questioned your worth because of someone else's actions, stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what signs to watch for, and more importantly, how to protect your peace and honor your worth. Your journey to clarity starts now. The most dangerous betrayal isn't the one that screams, it's the one that whispers, the lie told over and over again by someone who says they love you. Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're diving into something painfully real. Something most people don't talk about until it's already broken them: the betrayal of repeated lies. At first, it doesn't look like betrayal, it looks like a small excuse, a harmless omission. "Hey, don't worry, it's nothing," said with a smile. But slowly, and quietly, that small lie becomes a pattern, and that pattern becomes a prison. Let's be honest, we've all told little white lies, maybe to protect someone's feelings, maybe to avoid confrontation. But what happens when it becomes a way of life? What happens when the person you love keeps choosing deception over honesty? When every day becomes a guessing game, a slow erosion of certainty, because it's not just about what they lie about anymore. It's about what their lies do to you. You begin to doubt them. Then you begin to doubt yourself. Your mind spirals. Did that really happen? Am I being paranoid? Maybe I'm overreacting. But here's the truth: lies rewire your reality, and when they're repeated, they don't just destroy trust, they destroy your sense of safety, your sense of worth, your sanity. Let me tell you about Daniel. He loved someone deeply, trusted them completely, but over time, the small lies piled up: where they'd been, who they were with, why they didn't answer. At first, Daniel gave them the benefit of the doubt. He told himself, maybe they were just afraid of my reaction. Maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe I'm the problem. But then came the moment of clarity. It wasn't just that they were lying, it was how they apologized, always the same: sorry you feel that way. Sorry you misunderstood. Sorry I got caught. There was no remorse, only regret for the consequences, and that's when Daniel realized this wasn't a mistake, it was a decision, made over and over again. They weren't lying because they were afraid, they were lying because it worked. They got to do what they wanted, and Daniel, he kept forgiving, kept hoping, kept waiting for change that never came. The ancient Stoic, Epictetus, once said, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. Let me reframe that for you. If someone repeatedly lies to you, and you keep accepting it, you are participating in your own destruction. That doesn't make you weak, it means you cared. But there's a line where caring becomes self-betrayal. So what now? First, stop making excuses for dishonesty. Not every lie deserves understanding. Some deserve distance. Second, watch what they do, not what they say. Words are easy, but patterns never lie. And finally, most importantly, protect your peace. Because when someone lies to you again and again, they're not just breaking promises, they're breaking you. And the most powerful thing you can do is walk away before you forget how to trust yourself. You don't need more explanations. You don't need more apologies. You need one moment of truth to choose your worth over their comfort. So ask yourself, how many more lies will it take before you finally believe the truth? Because sometimes, the most courageous act of self-respect is to stop listening and start leaving. Your peace is not a luxury, it's a boundary. Protect it like your life depends on it, because it does. If this message hit home for you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, clarity is a gift. Truth is a weapon, and you are stronger than you think. There's a moment when someone crosses a line, and they act like you're the problem for noticing. Ever felt that invisible sting, when someone dismisses your needs, your space, your voice, like it's an inconvenience, not a misunderstanding, a choice? Think of your boundaries as invisible lines drawn not out of fear, but out of love, for your time, your energy, your sanity. They are not walls to shut others out, but doors with locks, and only those who knock with respect should be let in. But here's the hard truth. When someone consistently ignores your boundaries, it's not because they didn't hear you. It's because they decided that their wants are more important than your needs. And if you allow that long enough, you'll start losing little pieces of yourself. You begin to shrink in your own skin. You start saying yes, just to keep the peace, but the only peace that gets preserved is theirs. You become the one walking on eggshells in your own life. Let me tell you about Lisa. Lisa loved her solitude, not because she was cold, but because it was how she recharged. But her partner didn't respect that. He always had to be around, always needed her attention. And when she asked for space, gently, clearly, he made her feel guilty. Why do you need space from me? What are you hiding? It didn't stop there. He'd scroll through her phone, without permission, claiming, I'm just curious. If you've got nothing to hide, why does it matter? And the first few times, Lisa made excuses. Maybe he's just insecure. Maybe I need to explain it better. But over time, it became clear, he understood, he just didn't care. That wasn't a communication problem, that was a respect problem. Marcus Aurelius once said, if you don't respect yourself, who will respect you? It's not a rhetorical question, it's a warning. When you let someone repeatedly violate your boundaries, you're not just allowing disrespect, you're normalizing it. You're teaching them, this is okay. This is what I'll tolerate. And they'll keep pushing, until you forget where the lines ever were. So here's what you need to remember. 1. Boundaries are not selfish, they are sacred. They protect the space where your confidence, clarity, and peace live. 2. When someone crosses a line repeatedly, it's not forgetfulness, it's a decision. People who love you will adjust, people who use you will resist. 3. You don't need to convince someone to treat you well. Respect is not begged for, it is either freely given, or it's a signal to walk away. You are allowed to say, this is my space. This is my phone. This is my need for silence today. And you are allowed to walk away when those things are laughed at, ignored, or trampled on, because your peace is not negotiable, and your boundaries are not up for debate. This is not about being cold, it's about being clear. The people meant to stay in your life will honor the lines you draw. The ones who don't were never meant to stay. So if you've been shrinking to fit someone else's comfort, this is your sign to stop, take up space. Draw the line and stand behind it, like your soul depends on it, because it does. Your boundaries are not the problem, they're the answer. Have you ever trusted someone so deeply that when they betrayed you, it didn't just hurt, it changed you? When trust is shattered, it doesn't just break a bond between two people, it breaks something inside you. The safe space you thought existed suddenly disappears, and in its place is silence, doubt, and a voice in your head whispering, how did I not see this coming? It's not just pain, it's disorientation. You begin questioning everything, their words, your choices, even your own ability to judge who's safe and who's not. Imagine trust like a glass bridge. It lets you walk towards someone with open arms, with hope, but when it cracks, not only do you fall, you begin to fear ever walking that path again. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once wrote, trust is lost through deceit. Short, brutal, true, a single lie, a single act of betrayal, and everything you've built can collapse like ash in the wind. Let me tell you a story. Jake was engaged. He believed he'd found his life partner, someone he could build a future with. They shared a home, dreams, laughter. One night, as his fiancée slept, a message notification popped up on her phone. Curiosity, gut instinct, maybe both. He looked, and there it was, conversations. Hidden ones, with someone else, not just casual, not just friendly. Emotion, intimacy, secrets. In that moment, Jake didn't just read words, he watched his entire vision of the future dissolve. What haunted him wasn't the cheating itself, it was how normal she had seemed, how easily she had lied, while holding his hand, looking him in the eye. He wanted to forgive, he tried to forgive, but every kiss, every conversation afterward, felt hollow, because in the back of his mind, the bridge had already collapsed. This is the truth we must face. Some trust, once broken, cannot be rebuilt, not because we lack compassion, but because we've learned to value peace over chaos, and reality over illusion. So, what do you do when trust is destroyed? First, stop trying to fix what you didn't break. It's not your job to hold the shattered pieces together, while the person who broke them watches. Second, watch their actions, not just their words. True remorse comes quietly, consistently, and through change, not through apologies, wrapped in excuses. And finally, accept, as the Stoics taught us, you cannot control their behavior, only your response. You can't rewind the story, but you can choose where it ends. Forgiveness is powerful, but forgiveness without wisdom is surrender. You are allowed to walk away, not because you're bitter, but because you refuse to betray yourself a second time. Maybe one day, Jake will love again, maybe, you will too, but next time, it will be with open eyes, and a heart that remembers. Trust is earned, not owed. Sometimes, the most courageous thing you can do, is to walk away from the ruins, and start building a new home, on ground that doesn't crack beneath your feet. There's a special kind of pain, that leaves no bruises, but lingers longer than any wound. It's the sting of being mocked, not for something silly, but for something you trusted someone enough to share, your truth, your fear. Your softest, most human part, to be vulnerable with someone, to say, this is where I hurt, is an act of profound courage. You're not just sharing information, you're handing someone the keys to your inner world, hoping they'll hold it with care, hoping they'll honor it, not use it as a weapon. But when that trust is broken, when someone laughs at what you whispered in confidence, something inside you collapses. It's not just embarrassment, it's betrayal, a quiet kind of cruelty that says, your pain is entertainment, your wounds are jokes, your trust was misplaced. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus reminds us, if someone mocks your wounds, it reveals far more about their character than yours. And I'd go one step further, anyone who laughs at your vulnerability does not deserve a seat at your table. Let me tell you about Emma. Emma had always struggled with anxiety. For years, she wore a calm mask, hiding the storms inside, but one day, she trusted a friend enough to take off that mask. She spoke about her panic attacks, the racing heart, the sleepless nights, and how she was learning to breathe through it. At first, her friend listened, nodded, even comforted her. But weeks later, at a crowded dinner party, Emma overheard something that made her stomach drop. Her friend was mocking her, mimicking her anxious tics, imitating her voice, turning her real pain into a performance. People laughed, Emma froze. In that moment, she didn't just feel embarrassed, she felt violated, not physically, but emotionally. So deep, that sacred thing she'd shared had been reduced to a punchline. And here's the truth, when someone uses your vulnerability against you, they're not being careless, they're being calculated. It's a subtle form of control, a way to make you feel smaller, less stable, less safe, while they feel bigger. So what do you do when that happens? First, believe your feelings. That sinking sensation in your chest isn't overreacting, it's your intuition saying, this person is not safe. Second, name it calmly. Directly, you might say, I shared something personal with you because I trusted you. I felt hurt when you used it to entertain others. Whether they apologize or deflect will tell you everything you need to know. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, protect your heart. Don't keep handing it to people who treat it like a toy. Your vulnerability is not a weakness, it is proof that you are human, awake, and capable of love, in a world that often forgets how. But even the strongest heart needs a safe place to land, so choose wisely. Who gets access to yours? Because true connection isn't built on laughter at your expense, it's built on respect. And the safety to be fully, authentically you, scars and all. You don't truly know who loves you until life breaks you open. There's a moment, and you'll remember it for the rest of your life, when everything falls apart. You lose your job, your health crumbles, someone you love walks away, and just when you think things can't get worse, they do. But perhaps what hurts the most isn't the event itself, it's realizing who's not there when you need them most. It's in those darkest moments that the true nature of relationships is revealed, not in the laughter, not in the victories, not in the easy days, but in the fire, in the storms, in the quiet, desperate nights, when you're barely holding it together. We often think love is tested by time, but more often, it's tested by adversity. When someone you trusted someone you thought would stand by you, disappears. The moment life gets heavy, it's more than abandonment, it's a betrayal, not of promises, but of presence. The harsh truth: they never truly loved you for who you are, but for what you provided, the fun, the distraction, the image, the benefit. And when those benefits are gone, so are they. It's like being in the middle of a violent storm, soaked and trembling, watching them close the door from inside a warm house without even looking back. And in that moment, your heart breaks, not just from the pain, but from the realization that the connection was never unconditional. Seneca once said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." But perhaps even more relevant, adversity does not build character, it reveals it. When life tests you, the ones who truly care step closer, not away, and those who leave, they're not necessarily cruel, they're just not capable of loving you through your darkness. They love the sunshine, not the soul. Let's go back to Jake. You may remember, he had just discovered his fiancée was emotionally cheating, but life wasn't done testing him. Shortly after, Jake was laid off. The loss shattered him, emotionally, mentally, financially. In the midst of it all, he turned to his fiancée, hoping to find comfort, a partner, a safe place. But instead, he found distance. She told him his negativity was draining, that she couldn't handle this version of him. And days later, she was gone. She left, saying she needed to protect her peace. Jake was left in silence, not just grieving the betrayal, but staring into the cold truth. She never loved the whole of him, only the convenient parts. So what do you do when the people you counted on vanish the moment you're down? 1. Accept their choice, without chasing. Their absence speaks louder than any excuse. Let them go. Don't beg someone to stay when they already walked out during your worst storm. 2. Honor the ones who stayed. Pay attention to the quiet loyalty, the friend who checks in, the sibling who listens, the stranger who shows kindness. These are your real tribe. 3. Rebuild, stronger and wiser. Let your pain sharpen your vision. The next time someone shows you their loyalty, don't just listen to words, watch what they do. When things get hard, you can't control who leaves, you can't force anyone to love you the way you deserve, but you can control how you respond. The Stoics remind us, you are not what happens to you. You are how you rise from it. So mourn, grieve, feel it all, but then, breathe, stand, and walk away from anyone who couldn't hold space for your pain, because in this life, your tribe isn't the people who show up to celebrate your success. It's the ones who sit with you in the silence, who hold your hand in the storm, who choose you, even when you're broken. Those are the ones worth keeping, and you're worth standing up for, even if you're the only one left standing. It's not the knives aimed at your chest that hurt the most, it's the ones buried quietly in your back, by the people you once called friend. Think about someone you once trusted. Someone you believed would stand up for you, even when you weren't in the room. You thought that no matter what, they'd protect your name, just as you would protect theirs. But then, one day, you find out they've been speaking behind your back, twisting your words, exaggerating your flaws, turning your private pain into public gossip. And in that moment, it feels like you've been walking through the night, only to feel a knife being yanked out of your back, cold, sudden, paralyzing. Betrayal through words, spoken behind your back, is one of the most subtle and most devastating forms of hurt. It damages your reputation, it sows doubt in your other relationships, and it chips away at your sense of safety and belonging. You start wondering, if they could smile to my face and still speak like that behind my back, who else is pretending? Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, once said, "Focus not on what others say wrongly, but on what you do rightly. And another truth, more cutting still, the tongue of a traitor is sharper than any sword. Take Rachel, for example. She thought Sarah was her closest friend. They shared secrets, supported one another, walked side by side through life's storms, until one day, a mutual friend told her, "You know, Sarah's been telling people about your breakdown. She even mocked the way you cried." Everyone laughed. Rachel froze. At first, she couldn't believe it, but when Sarah started avoiding her, and others looked at her differently, Rachel understood. The friendship had rotted long ago. She had just been too loyal to notice. No explosion, no fight, just the quiet shattering of trust. So, what should you do when you discover someone you trusted is speaking ill of you behind your back? First, don't react impulsively. People who gossip or betray often twist the story when confronted. They get defensive, flip the blame, or accuse you of being too sensitive. Second, observe, don't engage, withdraw with dignity, protect your peace. You don't need to stoop to their level to make a statement. Third, respond like a Stoic. You can't control what others say, but you can control your own calm. And finally, rebuild your circle of trust. True friendship requires no defense. If someone is kind only to your face, but cruel behind your back, they were never your friend. They were a performer in your life, not a genuine character. Remember this: you can't control who speaks behind your back, but you can choose to walk away silently. Your calm withdrawal, your unshaken posture, that is your answer, and in doing so, you protect your peace, your dignity, and your future. I am worthy of loyalty, and I will not beg for it from those who choose to betray. They don't scream, they don't threaten, they don't even raise their voice, but somehow, you feel obligated, guilty, trapped. That's the quiet power of manipulation, and it's far more common than you think. Manipulation isn't about love, it's not care, it's control. It's a calculated strategy, one designed to make you question yourself, doubt your memory, and prioritize their needs over your own. Manipulators don't take your power by force. They convince you to hand it over willingly. They find your soft spots, your empathy, your loyalty, your fear of disappointing others, and they weaponize them. Here's how you know it's happening: you feel guilty for saying no. You find yourself constantly justifying your boundaries. They twist your words, deny past events, or make you feel irrational. They play the victim so well, you begin to feel like the villain. This is not a misunderstanding, it's manipulation. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And when someone else controls your guilt, your time, or your emotions, you are no longer the master. Let's talk about Alex. He was kind, helpful, always the guy people called when they needed something. Mark, his so-called best friend, knew this. Mark only showed up when he needed favors, a loan, a ride, someone to bail him out of his own mess, and every time, he poured on the charm. "Bro, you're my rock. I don't know what I'd do without you." But when Alex hit a rough patch, Mark was nowhere. No calls, no help, not even a text. One day, it clicked. This wasn't friendship, it was a transaction, a one-sided exchange, where Mark kept taking, and Alex kept giving, because guilt told him he had to. And that's what manipulation feels like: love, disguised as obligation. Here's the truth: if someone only shows up when they need something, but disappears when you need them, it's not love, it's leverage. Their affection is not unconditional, it's strategic. Triangular flag, red flag. If their warmth increases when they want something, and cools the moment you set a boundary, you're being used. So how do you deal with this? Step 1. Recognize the pattern. If you feel drained after every interaction, If you constantly second-guess yourself around them, it's not you, it's their design. Step 2, stop over-explaining. You don't owe anyone an essay for saying no. A simple, "that doesn't work for me," is enough. Step 3, set boundaries, without guilt. True kindness includes protecting yourself, your time, your energy, your emotional bandwidth. They are valuable and limited. Spend them wisely. The wise person does not allow themselves to become a pawn in another's game. Freedom begins the moment you stop allowing guilt to govern your choices. You don't need to announce your departure, just leave the game, quietly, completely. The people who truly care about you will never manipulate you into staying. They'll respect your boundaries, even when it doesn't benefit them. You are not selfish for protecting your peace. You are not cruel for saying no. You are not cold for stepping away from those who drain you. You are just finally choosing yourself, and that's not manipulation, that's mastery. The worst kind of betrayal isn't someone who hates you, it's someone who says they love you, but uses that love as a leash to control, confuse, and contain you. Because fake love doesn't scream at you, it whispers comfort, while it quietly destroys you from the inside. This is not ordinary heartbreak, it's a calculated illusion. When someone pretends to care, just enough to keep you close, but never enough to truly invest, protect, or nurture the relationship, they don't love you, they love what you offer, your kindness, your attention, your loyalty. You become a supply chain for their ego. Not a partner in love. It's not always cruel on the surface, and that's what makes it dangerous. They feed you just enough hope to keep you hooked, but keep you starved of certainty, peace, and genuine care. Over time, you start to question your instincts. You wonder, am I asking for too much? Maybe I'm just too sensitive. But deep down, your gut screams, something's wrong. This is the slow erosion of self-worth, and the worst part, you blame yourself for the emptiness they created. Seneca once warned, they speak of you as if you were a most devoted friend, but in their hearts they treat you as an enemy. And in the context of love, it's even more sinister. A clearer truth might be, those who pretend to love you, but use you in private, are the most dangerous of all, because they wrap betrayal in the language of care. Let me show you what this looks like in real life. Sophie loved her boyfriend deeply. He said all the right things, "I love you. You're everything to me." But his actions told another story. He'd vanish for days, give her the silent treatment, then come back, with apologies, with affection, with promises, and then disappear again. Every time Sophie tried to leave, he pulled her back in, with just enough warmth to reignite her hope. It was a cycle of emotional starvation and temporary comfort. Until one night, lying awake again, confused and crying, she realized love should not feel like this. Real love doesn't leave you anxious, walking on eggshells, or emotionally exhausted. It doesn't confuse you, it grounds you. So, how do you escape fake love? How do you break free from someone who only pretends to care? First, trust patterns, not promises. If someone says "I love you," but consistently makes you feel small, alone, or crazy, it's not love, it's control. Second, stop romanticizing their potential. Love isn't about who they could be, it's about how they show up. Consistently, especially when it matters most. Third, walk away when clarity arrives. Leaving might hurt, but staying will cost you everything: your peace, your self-respect, your joy. Fake love is still betrayal, but what hurts more than being used is staying after you realize it. So choose yourself, not out of bitterness, but because you finally remember what real love is supposed to feel like. You don't need someone who says, "I love you." You need someone whose love feels like freedom, not a trap. Some people don't fear hurting you. They only fear losing your forgiveness. They don't value your kindness, they weaponize it. And the more you forgive them, without consequence, the more they learn, you'll stay, no matter how they treat you. There are people who don't see forgiveness as a bridge to healing, they see it as a free pass. They hurt you, say the right words, make the same empty promises, and once you forgive them, the cycle begins again. No remorse, no growth, just a better mask, a smoother lie. They aren't afraid of losing your trust, they're afraid of losing their ability to use you. This kind of betrayal isn't loud, it's subtle. It doesn't scream in your face, it whispers in your heart, maybe they'll change. Maybe it's my fault. And with every second chance you give, your self-respect fades, a little more. Forgiveness becomes the shield they hide behind. They learn your boundaries are bendable, your compassion, infinite, and slowly, what once was an act of love, becomes self-abandonment. Epictetus warned us, beyond a certain point, kindliness and good temper cease to be virtues. A modern truth, unbounded forgiveness, is complicity with harm. Take Tony, for example. He had a longtime friend, who constantly lied to him. Each time, the friend would cry, apologize, promise to do better. And Tony, valuing loyalty, would forgive, but nothing ever changed. The lies returned, the betrayal deepened, until one day, Tony realized, it's not that he doesn't know he's hurting me, it's that he knows I'll always forgive him. And that was the real betrayal. So, how do you escape this emotional loop? First, recognize patterns, not promises. Once might be a mistake, repetition is a choice. Second, understand that forgiveness doesn't require continued contact. You can forgive in your heart, and still remove them from your life. You don't owe anyone access to hurt you again. Third, set firm boundaries. Don't over-explain. Don't justify your no. You are not cruel for protecting your peace, you are wise. From a Stoic perspective, we can't control how others treat us, but we can control what we accept. What you tolerate will continue, and if you allow the same betrayal again and again, in the name of kindness, it stops being love, it becomes self-neglect. As Seneca might have said, they speak of you as a friend, but treat you as a pawn. True love honors your value, manipulation ignores it. You don't need one more apology, you need peace. Walk away, not to punish them, but to protect yourself, because the strongest thing you can do is not to endlessly hold on, but to finally let go of the pain. Let go of the hope that they'll change, let go of the lie that being treated poorly is your fault, and choose yourself, choose your peace, choose a life where you no longer have to beg for the bare minimum. Honesty, kindness, respect. You deserve more, not tomorrow, now.